Side Hustle Show 115, Monetize What You Know, Proven Course Creation Best Practices.
Welcome to the Side Hustle Show, where aspiring part-time entrepreneurs learn how to turn their side hustle dreams into reality. Because your 9 to 5 may make you a living, but your 5 to 9 makes you alive. And now, your host, Nick Loper.
What's happening? Nick Loper here. Welcome to the Side Hustle Show. This is episode 115, Monetizing What You Know, Proven Course Creation Best Practices. You're going to learn how to figure out what you can teach, how to find out if there's a market for that, some killer marketing ideas for your course, even if you don't have an existing audience, how to price your course, and even some of the hardware, software tools that you can use to make a professional educational experience for your students. My guest is Ankur Nagpal from usefedora.com and million-dollar-instructor.com. Now, Fedora is an online course hosting platform that takes care of all the technical stuff, the payment processing, the video hosting, and you can even set up your own affiliate accounts, which is pretty cool, because that was one of the best drivers of sales of traffic for my Udemy course, and had I posted it on Fedora instead, that could have been an alternative had I even known about it. So very slick software, and it was kind of weird timing because I'd actually just learned about Fedora from Scott Britton, who was on episode 64 talking about building passive income streams on Udemy, and he was just singing its praises as a very cool tool to host your courses. And then I got an email intro to Ankur, and we set up this call. So big thanks to Andrew from andrewsmusings.com for that intro. Now, as is per the usual, all the notes and highlights from this week's call are available to you in a free downloadable PDF at sidehustlenation.com/115 or through the link in the episode description of your podcast player app. Stick around to the end of the show to hear about a special free offer from the team over at Fedora. I was going to say Fandango. The team over at Fedora. And with that, let's get Ankur on the line. We are going to dive into the hustle of teaching online, because this is a huge opportunity that is just the biggest trend in education, right? So the biggest thing for my people of aspiring and part-time entrepreneurs is deciding what to teach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing to think about is think about what you know that can solve problems for people. Generally, people are willing to pay money if you can simplify their life in any way and, find and help solve their problems. And that's the first thing I would think about. The other thing I would think through that, I've seen personally while coaching people is a lot of people are afraid of calling themselves an authority and have thoughts like, how can I teach someone? I'm not as good as, person X that's also teaching other people. But when you kind of get into it, you realize that doesn't really matter. The fact that you might have learned a skill recently might make you a better teacher than someone that's, known it for 20 years and takes it for granted. So to give you an example, two of the most successful teachers on Fedora are called BitFountain, and they teach iPhone programming, but they're not developers by profession. They're people that self-taught how to program, suffered and made the same mistakes as a lot of people they're teaching. And therefore, we're in a better position to actually teach than, a computer science major that learned this 20 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. There's something to that. Somebody who's down in the trenches versus like the theoretical approach. I think that can definitely work.
I mean, I think a cool mini challenge I heard about is whenever you learn a skill for the first time, the next day, see if you can write maybe a blog post or create some kind of informative material that teaches the skill that you just learned. Not only will it reinforce the skill right away, but it'll also kind of show you that, you've learned something and now you're in a position to actually teach it. And in a lot of cases, teach it better than someone that's known it for a long time because you just struggled with the same things that other people are going to struggle with.
I really like that habit, and I need to be doing. I've done a couple of YouTube videos where I finally have been struggling with some WordPress problem and finally figured out, and they're okay, I'm just going to record this so I can show other people. But that happens all the time, and just this week was my programming skills are so poor, but it's I'm trying to figure out how to make this one thing centered inside of my sidebar. Yeah. And like I finally figured it out, and I totally should have just recorded a video because it was like that would have been easier than like reading through, all this stuff. And if it, I don't know, and then it adds up and it reinforces that, for the next time that you need to do it, and you can go back to your own video just in case you forget how to do it. I really like that stuff.
Before you know it, you have, 25 videos and the next $1 million course.
There you go. There you go. One of the things that was actually on a recording last night with Scott Britton, and one of the things that he shared was, the most important file to keep on your computer is a database of questions that people ask you. And I'll admit that I started doing this for like 2 days after he gave me this hack, and I stopped doing it because I was like, man, that's a lot of questions to keep track of. But it's a really, really cool database because you'll start to see patterns of what people ask you over and over again. You'll start to build templates of your answers so you can fire those off quicker. And you'll have perfect validation of what people already view you as an expert in and what you can, potentially teach on. So I thought that was a really cool hack. Yeah,
I think that's a great way of approaching.
So how about
it, because you're collecting data. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so what are some of the courses that you've taught or that you've seen, the Bitfountain folks, like what are the ones that you see being successful?
So I think, there's two kinds of success. The first kind is courses that make the most amount of dollars, courses that make the most amount of revenue. And these courses are generally ones that solve a professional problem or help people advance in their career or help people in turn make more money. So programming course is a great example because it very often means you can get a job as a developer, which happened with Bitfountain. We had a lot of people that took their course and went from making, $45K a year to getting a starting iPhone programmer job at $75K a year with an $80 online course.
Right.
Incredibly powerful.
It's a good investment.
Incredibly powerful. And, other professional courses fall into that realm. Training, real estate licensing, and anything where people see your course as a gateway to a better life. So those courses generally make the most amount of money because they sell at higher price points. The other kind of course that also can be quite profitable but doesn't make the same amount of money, but actually sells more classes than the professional courses are passion projects. So for instance, we had someone on Fedora that taught watercolor painting, and in her first month, she made $8,500.
Whoa.
Purely of, $25 courses. The reason it's going to be hard for her to make as much money as the iPhone programming guys are people are not going to spend $100 normally on a watercolor course, but they're happy to spend, $9, $19. And more than that, she's doing something that, she truly loves, and her audience is intrinsically very motivated by it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think there's my course isn't about how to make money. My course isn't about, how to become the best programmer or how to, do whatever. But I'm glad you bring up the passion projects because I had a couple of examples. Like some friends of mine have amazing content related to cocktails. Like I'm going to make cocktail recipes, show you how to be a better mixologist. And in some cases, like, if you're targeting professional bartenders, like, yes, they can, potentially earn more money and earn more tips because of this. But for most people, it's a lifestyle thing. I want to impress my friends at my next dinner party or whatever it is. And another guy brought up like, oh, I've been a cake decorator for the past 10 years. Where it's like, there might be, a monetization element to someone taking that course, but it's more of a lifestyle skill, more of a passion project, like you said. So good to hear.
With that said, like something like cake decoration, like if you search YouTube for cake decoration, you'll realize what a large market size it is. Like, I actually truly believe even in cake decoration, it is possible to build $1 million business.
So with the cake decorating example, does all that free content on YouTube encourage you or discourage you to create a paid course on the same topic?
I think the way I'd approach it is, YouTube is a great marketing channel. And if you can create free, engaging content on YouTube, you already have an audience to sell a paid offering to. And, we've seen that YouTube is a great place to actually acquire paying customers. Like the watercolor example, more than 2/3 of her sales initially were sourced from YouTube actually, where she did have a lot of free content. But people are still always willing to pay for curation. They're willing to pay for feedback from the instructor. They're willing to pay for the community aspect and of course premium content.
Wow, that's a great hack to drive traffic from YouTube to your paid course.
Yeah, it's one of the largest channels we've seen, largest free channels we've seen successful.
Cool. What's a typical length of a course, like the watercolor example, or even on the professional side? I think there might be an intimidation factor at play with, like, I went to college. I, sat through a quarter's worth of lectures, and it was like hours and hours and hours of content. Like, does it have to be like this massive encyclopedia of information?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think there's two ways of looking at it. One, partially what people are paying you for with the course is the fact that you're saving them time. There's a lot of free information available anywhere. Part of the appeal of a course is you're taking all this free information, you're distilling it into small, attractive offering that's well packaged. And part of that is brevity. You owe it to your listeners to value their time and not make it incredibly long. With that said, the range of generally seen is anywhere from 45 minutes to, 3 or 4 hours normally. The BitFountain guys are a bit of an exception because their courses were like 30 hours. But then again, I mean, they were trying to go above and beyond.
Yeah.
The second thing to note about BitFountain is their courses were 30 hours long. They started selling their courses when it was precisely 0 minutes long. They sold their course before they actually developed any video. And it took them a year after launch to actually put in all 30 hours. That's the other thing with these kinds of online courses, that they're a living product. It's not, something you record and forget about. You can easily start charging people before actually developing your content, where you develop one video, charge people a lower price for coming in early, and then, keep adding content as time passes. Make it a living product and not something you ship and forget about.
Yeah, a friend of mine from one of my mastermind groups pre-sold his video course, and had, I think, 2 or 3 people buy it, and was like, okay, now I guess I have to build this video course, which was like awesome validation to have that before you even put it out there. For somebody without, a built-in audience, is this just coming from, your free YouTube channel, whoever you can get to find your videos that way, just social media stuff? Like, how are you, I mean, that the pre-sale, like, it sounds awesome if you have like an existing email list or some, built-in audience to blast this offer out to. But what do you think for people who are just getting started?
I think ultimately everyone, when you think about it, right, has an audience. You might not call it an audience, but you have friends that care about you. You have a professional network that cares about you. You have affiliations with different groups and societies. So I think, that would be a great place to start, people in your immediate network. The second thing that's important is ultimately any kind of online business, might it be running an online store, might it be, selling courses. For all of that, building an audience is incredibly important. So one, I would say, obviously, go after your immediate network. 2, put it out in places like YouTube and other free distribution channels. 3rd, you might want to look into putting it on marketplaces like Udemy or Skillshare where they have an audience. But beyond that, if you're serious about this whole internet thing, you have to think about building an audience. That's, that's internet 101 for pretty much anyone trying to build a business.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up Udemy because, Fedora is an awesome software, awesome platform to host your own courses. But I could imagine, myself 2 years ago, putting up a course and hosting it with Fedora had it existed then, and crickets. And so Udemy is the halfway house between this, right? Like it's, like you said, leveraging somebody else's pre-existing platform. They've already spent all the marketing dollars to get the eyeballs there.
Yep.
Just curious, what's your take on that versus hosting on your own?
Yep, absolutely. I think if you're just starting out and you have no audience at all, it makes sense to go in a direction like Udemy. What a lot of our successful instructors do is they kind of keep small free mini courses or like less valuable content on Udemy just to bring in the initial audience and then try and move them over to their own site, hosted on Fedora or whatever other platform where they actually can sell more premium products. Because Udemy is great because, they will drive traffic to your course. But at the same time, they discount your courses 90% off. So you don't want to put your valuable material there because, Udemy treats all courses like, hey, this is effectively worth $10. Like once in 2 weeks, they conduct a flash sale to give everything for like $10 or something. So you don't want your actual $200, $300 product on Udemy because it's bad signaling that, it's available for $10. But it's a great channel if you just want to get a quick short course out there. It's a great channel even to just distribute a free course that has some kind of lead gen into your mailing list, your your paid, your more expensive product and so forth. So I think it's a great place to start out. And as and when you kind of learn how to build an audience, then it's time to, actually set it up on your own site and build more expensive courses.
Yeah, that's a really interesting angle because the minimum requirement for Udemy is a half an hour worth of video content. So you could essentially create the intro or even the first few modules of your super master level course.
Yep.
To put it out there, and gain a bunch of free enrollments. Then what you can do is you can send out educational announcements to your students, which is not as good as an email list, but a lot of people get email notifications whenever there's a new announcement. And so you're hitting those inboxes just the same. And this is something that Scott shared again last night was, hey, I'll hit them up with a free webinar presentation. And it's like, yes, it totally checks the box for a free additional content, and as soon as they register for the webinar, they're on my email list now. I give them the content and I can pitch my higher level course. I thought that was super smart.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, to that end, even we, Fedora, have a couple of small free Udemy courses on how to price your course, how to grow an online course, because it exposes our content to other online teachers.
Yeah, very cool hack. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts of actually creating the course. Everybody's a geek for like the tools, the software, the hardware and stuff that goes into get this done. So do you have any favorites in terms of like screen capture software, camera stuff, audio stuff before we get too geeky on it?
High level, I would tell people if you've never built an online course, don't sweat it. Like most of the best course developers I know started out with a really, really shitty setup. I mean, keep it like literally they use their Mac, they use their MacBook with the built-in like iPhone headphones. The audio does not sound great, but I don't want people to get in a trap where they try and be perfect and don't get anything done. I've seen that happen too often. Yeah. What I would tell people is you do it in 2 stages. Your first course, your goal should be get something done, get something shipped. It does not have to be great. We have something that we internally call the minimum viable course. Think about what the minimum viable course is, and get that done. Set an aggressive deadline. Say, decide on Friday after work that I'm going to ship something by Sunday afternoon and just do it. Worry about technology later. Second stage of that is, when you're like, okay, this is something I want to do. That's when you invest in, a high quality microphone. I personally have used the Blue Yeti, which I like, and invest in a high quality microphone. You can, if your videos are going to be shot with, if you're going to be in the video yourself, like a talking head video, you can probably get away with an iPhone, assuming you have good lighting and some kind of tripod to keep it steady. And I think that'll take you pretty far. The other option, of course, is just to, have slides or screen share depending on if you're teaching how to code. That makes a lot of sense to just, basically use a screen capture tool like ScreenFlow or Camtasia to record your screen, with a high quality microphone.
Yeah, the screen videos for me are way easier to create than the talking head videos because I had to set up. My wife let me borrow her DSLR. She's like, here, you can use this one. Here's a memory card for you. Don't promise not to break anything. But it was just like shooting the videos and the different takes and the edits and I would like tape up a piece of paper to be my teleprompter. And it was just like, I don't know, it took a long time. So the screen capture stuff, super easy way to get started. Just voice over PowerPoint slides or voice over you talking through some process on the screen. Really love doing that way.
Yeah. So I think one of the things I found that works for me for talking head videos is it would take me a long time to get like the first good take. But then I would get in the zone and just like hammer out 30 minutes of video easy. Then again, my personal hack or what I found really effective for talking head video was to not script it, but just have an idea of talking points and let myself get in the zone.
Okay. Yeah, that's aggressive. I don't know. I don't know if I could be the person who just speaks coherently in front of a microphone without any script, but
I mean, initially it seems really hard, but then it's hard to explain. Just at least what I found is I got into this like mental state where the things that I was saying, or at least, I just felt like I was in the zone to the degree that, my brain was working really fast and really effectively to the degree that I don't think I could have scripted it as well. Then again, the other factors I was talking about, course pricing and how to price a course optimally, which is stuff that I've looked at every day for 2 years. So I just like had all this information and I, can talk about it for hours.
Yeah.
So that definitely helped as well.
Well, now that you bring up pricing, what's the dirt on pricing?
everyone prices too low. Like, especially initially, oh man, everyone undersells. Okay, how can my information be worth that much? I've seen too many people trying to build large businesses of a $9 or $19 course, and it just doesn't work. The other interesting thing to just note with pricing is what we've seen in our data is for the same course that's distributed for free for a low price and for a higher price, students that buy it at the most expensive price are generally the most happy with the same course that people buy for a lower price or for free, which kind of blows your mind when you think about it.
It is, but it kind of makes sense too, because the people who pay more are the ones who are actually going to go through the material, the ones that are actually going to take action on it and put the stuff into effect. So I think that makes sense. I love the quote. Everyone prices too low.
Yeah, no, they do. And the other thing is people don't really think about pricing the right way. A lot of people try and price by number of hours of content. A lot of people try and price by, comparable products. I think I'm personally a fan of pricing by what you think the outcome is worth to a person.
Okay.
So if you think the outcome of, learning how to code can make, a $20,000 difference in someone's life, price at, 1% of that. Think about how great your outcome is going to be and then price around it. Or another way of thinking about it is we had a blog post that actually did really well where we're like, think about your course right now and charge $500 for it and then work backwards and think about what can you do to make your course worth $500. Maybe you don't have to go that high, but it's worth thinking about what can I do to make my course worth a few $100s and add that value to your course rather than bring it back down to a $19 course.
Yeah, I like that. Ankur, one thing that I found with Udemy in particularly is once I made a big splash during the launch, and there's kind of been a slow and steady decline. I don't know, the last few months have been relatively even, but is there anything, tactics or hacks that you've seen effectively to keep up that demand over time? That's the biggest appeal for these. I'm going to build a passive income asset, and it's going to pay me for months down the road. But it's, I don't know. What's your take on making that ongoing revenue stream possible?
I think if you want an ongoing revenue stream, you need an ongoing traffic stream that's somewhat consistent, and you're not going to get that from Marketplace. I think that's why investing in a YouTube channel that kind of hits the right keywords consistently can be a great way. But ultimately, I mean, what you want to do is you want to find your audience, build an audience, and instead of, I guess, you can always keep the same product and have a passive income stream. But if you invest in building an audience, every time you build a new product, that's guaranteed sales. So while it's not fully passive, you can set up a business where, you build an audience, and because your audience cares about all your products, every subsequent launch can be bigger than the last one, leading to an ever increasing income stream by, continually creating new products.
That makes sense. Ankur, thanks so much for joining me. If people want to learn more about you and this stuff, where should they go?
We're going to set up a special URL for people from this podcast at usefedora.com/sidehustle. We're going to get one of the guys from our team to do a free training on, how you can build profitable online courses.
Cool. Thank you for that. And we'll wrap it up with your number one tip for Side Hustle Nation.
My number one tip is, just do it. I've seen too many people want to do stuff and not set an aggressive deadline and worry about, sweat the small stuff, worry about perfection. My advice to you is, pick a weekend, maybe next weekend, cancel all your plans, or maybe go out Friday night, but keep Saturday as an all day course hustle and do the best you can on Saturday and publish it on Sunday. If it's not great, that's fine. If it's, not perfect the way you want it, that's okay. If the audio kind of sucks, that's fine. You'll put your first piece of work in the world, and after that, it all changes.
Yeah, I agree. There's something to be said, just putting it out there, getting it done, and the feeling of accomplishment of shipping something will definitely be motivation to keep the wheel spinning.
Yep.
Well, cool. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome, Nathan.
There it is, guys. Thanks so much for listening. That's usefedora.com/side hustle. I'll link to that in the show notes. And the free webinar that's going on there is, I'm not sure if there's a closing date on that, but I think it might be evergreen. It's the 7 simple steps to creating and selling your first profitable online course in the next 30 days or less. So very cool presentation from the Fedora crew. Actually, this is by Ryan, their VP of Instructors, and he has taught 40,000 students in his own online courses. So sure to be some extra great content in there. So a little bit of a concise episode, but an action-packed one. One of my favorite sound bites was Ankur's piece about an ongoing revenue stream. You want an ongoing revenue stream? Well, you're going to have to build an ongoing traffic stream. I love it. So with that, I've got to go into some iTunes shouts since it's been a while since we've done that. I've got several new 5-star iTunes reviews, and you can leave your own at sidehustlenation.com/iTunes. Here's one coming in from Andy Man McCabe, who actually got a shout in this episode for building his and pre-selling his online course. So great timing on that. He says, I'm a Nation junkie. I've listened to every episode some more than once. Well, I appreciate that level of support, Andy. Thank you so much. I've got Melissa Wilson says 5 stars. Thank you, Melissa. I have Forge3, also 5 stars. And then Lex Glenn says, I must say this podcast is the bomb diggity. Yes, I said it, and I'm serious. So thank you so much for that. And then DR White rounds us off with Onward to Cubicle Freedom. So thank you guys so much again. If you want to leave your own and support the show, it's sidehustlenation.com/iTunes. And who knows, you may have your name or username read off in this kind of fashion in an upcoming episode. So, funny story. I was in a ballet this past weekend, and if you know me, you know I have not a dancing bone in my body, but my wife is a dancer, and they needed someone to play the king in the local rendition of Sleeping Beauty, which is a ballet put on at the local theater. And the criteria was, does the costume fit? So that's how I got recruited into this role. And luckily for me, my role did not involve any dancing. I walked across the stage looking very kingly, I might add. I bowed a couple times. And the thing that the role did include was a ridiculous looking costume, these medieval pantaloons and things like that. So I'll include a picture on the show notes page for this episode at sidehustlenation.com/115 if you want to check that out, 115. And while you're there, be sure to grab the free highlight reel PDF from this call with Ankur. And thank you so much for listening. Until next time, let's go out there, make something happen. Maybe this will be your weekend to create your course like Ankur suggests, and I will see you next week for another exciting edition of The Side Hustle Show. Hustle on.
Thanks for listening to The Side Hustle Show at www.sidehustlenation.com.